Hello everyone, my name is San Montgomery and I'm going to share a short story with you. I hope you enjoy it. I wasn't familiar with unconditional love. It wasn't something I had encountered before. And I don't think many of us are really familiar with it. But at that time I certainly wasn't. And I wasn't comfortable with intentional vulnerability either. Nor any type of vulnerability either, that matter. I always thought of vulnerability as being a weakness. And it was a weakness that allowed people to see who I was, or at least to get a glimpse of me. I didn't like who I was. And I didn't expect other people would like who I was either. So there's no way that I was going to make myself visible to them. But unbeknown to me, following this training, this Louise Hay You Can Heal Your Life training, and the holiday that I took immediately after it, all of that was going to change for me. Initially, I struggled to hold back my tears and found to my great discomfort that I couldn't. Not only that, but many of the other students were crying also. Each day we were taken on a journey of inner exploration, a journey of acceptance and of healing, a journey which required each of us to authentically experience and to own our own emotions. That was difficult for me. That was very difficult for me. Each day we would laugh and each day we would cry. Not just once or twice, but many times throughout the day. This wave of laughing and crying and laughing and crying. And eventually I came to realise that I was safe to do so. That it was okay to cry and it was okay to laugh. I came to understand that throughout this training, I was being held in unconditional love. I was being held without judgment and without expectation. And more importantly, I came to accept this unconditional love and even to allow it to soothe my psyche and to touch my very soul. I even found myself relaxing into it. And by the end of that week, I had begun to like myself that little bit. And I was even beginning to show people who I really was. I met Mikey just hours after the training had finished. I was still wrapped in that beautiful blanket of unconditional love as I perched on an outcrop of limestone, listening to the soft lapping of the waves of the Atlantic Ocean and thinking about the week's holiday that was to come. It was his dog that arrived first, a farm dog, a collie. Its back end was wriggling madly as it wagged its tail in its delight of coming across me. Mikey, its owner, soon followed. He was skipping nimbly from rock to rock. "Have you seen the gentian yet?" was his first question. And it took me a minute or two to understand what he had asked me. Mikey radiated such an enthusiasm and a strange but wonderful fusion of innocence combined with deep wisdom. He greeted me as you would an old friend, without hesitation, and with the same loving energy that I'd been held in all that week. We searched for the gentian, a wild flower which is particular to the Burren area of County Clare, and it felt like the most natural thing in the world to be doing so. For the next week, I visited Mikey every day. We talked about life and about nature and about the Fae. We shared stories and experiences, and we sat together, fully in our vulnerability, fully in our authenticity. Mikey took me to the fairy fort which was on his land, and he told me of the happenings there, and we left offerings to the Fae there. He told me about the misfortunes of a neighbour who had been foolish enough to capture a hare, and then to ignore its pleas to be let go. He described the fun of the annual boat race from Clare, County Clare, from where he was to Galway, and the adventures he'd had during that for many years. We talked for hours and hours about animals and about nature, and about how, when one has eyes to see, so many messages are given to us through these medium. Then one day, Mikey retrieved a box from the back of his living room cupboard and shared the memories which it contained. The letters and the photos within the box told the story of Mikey's first and only love, Veronica. The letters and the images were a beautiful testament to the joy that they had found in each other. They parted company when Veronica wanted the relationship to progress that bit further, and Mikey hadn't felt ready to do that yet. Consequently, Veronica returned to her own homeland, and Mikey was left totally heartbroken, totally alone. He never again committed to another relationship. Mikey told me that he had never shared these precious memories that were contained within this box with anyone before during his 73 years of life. I often think of the few days that I spent with Mikey. We had a deep ease with each other, and I have no doubt that I was able to connect with him in that way because of my experience of the unconditional love during the previous week. Mikey was such a blessing to me. He taught me the beauty of innocence, and he taught me the strength of vulnerability. He opened my heart in a way that had never been opened before. On my journey home from County Clare, I found that the area had one last gift to give me. I was driving in slow traffic when, to my right-hand side, I saw a fox jump over one of those dry stone walls. And it came down the other side of it and stood at the edge of the road. And it seemed to me as if it waited for my car to come, to walk out in front of my car. And that's what it did. It trotted across the road, to cross the road in front of my car. And it stopped, it paused, when it reached the very front of my vehicle. And it seemed to me that it turned and it looked me right in the eye. And it held my gaze for at least 3 seconds. And then it dropped from its mouth the live stoat that it had been carrying. And the fox continued on its journey to the other side of the road, while the stoat scurried off in the direction from which it had come. Thank you so much for listening to my story.